Good to meet you, Mike.
Yes, pleasure.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, we're out the Motor City Madmouth. We have a great crew on hand. Before I go into the crew, let everybody know the Sports Exchange is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate. Chat room, one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Also, our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter/X at Tribune South. Candy Ambling is behind the scenes, and she's also producing tonight. My book, a media book, will come out in a few weeks. It is titled Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning in to the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Well, I got four other leaders joining me tonight, and right to left, we got George Eichhorn. Welcome back, George.
Thank you very much. Good to be here, guys, and thank you for calling me a leader.
Oh, there you go. Hey, listen, it all blends in with the program. All right, Jacob Christer, we got a lot of work to do the next 2 days, and it starts tonight. Welcome back, JC.
Thank you. And if everybody's a leader, nobody's a leader. I'm just kidding.
Oh, there you go. All right. Is that your words of wisdom? All right, the newest addition to the Sports Exchange is Big Mike. Mike wearing a Bears jersey, and obviously one that he takes a lot of pride in that Jacob Christer can only relate to.
Am I the only one?
Absolutely. Hey, I had not only am I joining at the right time and getting on a great podcast, I got to go back at Jacob for the comments a couple weeks ago that infuriated all of us actual Bears fans out there. We don't want pretty, we want W's. We can't
good.
Front office.
Then go get the W's and quit worrying about being highlights.
Oh, it's not the highlights we're worried about. It's worried about consistency and coaching. You get a running quarterback, and the last thing you have him do is run. Or you have Trubisky back there, and you have a guy in
completely.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. All right, but anyways, I knew we had to get his little Trubisky vibe in. And last but not least, JB Ellis. Welcome back to the big show.
What's going on? Long time no see, guys. How's everybody doing?
Wow,
We're doing good. Welcome back.
Hey, listen, even though you're out there having a good time across the big pond, we're doing everything we can to continue to improve what we're doing. So when you came back, it's even in better shape than it was when you left it.
And JB, I don't know if you heard it, but Scott did a terrific JB last week show.
Oh.
Listen.
Yeah, listen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
JB, I never forget about my brother from another mother, let me tell you. So when you have an opportunity to listen to that show, you have the right to go out there and tell me and grade me if I did a good JB Ellis impersonation.
I definitely
Well,
will.
it's better than Sister from Another Mister.
There you go. That was good. You always come up with some good one-liners. Okay, you have a long ways to go, Jacob, but it's good stuff. All right, let me go over the topics, Roll. We only have three of them. And one of those topics that we have actually occurred during the FAU Men's Basketball Media Day. We'll insert that clip in a little while. But we're going to talk about first Roy Firestone mentioning Pat McAfee gets paid $85 million off a 5-year deal, is paying Aaron Rodgers millions to come on his show. And so when Roy had up close, he gave guests a pair of custom dress shirts, and they had a chance to stay in a fancy night hotel. Of course, in LA, they're pretty good, and promotional considerations. Meanwhile, Pat McAfee made $120 million during his last deal at FanDuel. So what are your thoughts of this, George? The thoughts of actually paying for guests? And bear in mind, he also pointed out that ESPN fired some pretty good reporters, anchors, and producers. Paying for guests, let alone millions for them, George?
I don't think so.
Up with that.
I don't think so, Scott. You and I have been in this business a long time, and we never saw that kind of money flow. Obviously, we're not at that level, but hey, listen, Roy Firestone, 7-time Emmy Award winner, 7-time Ace Award winner. I'm going to learn a lot more from Roy, and I have all these years. McAfee, okay, he's loud, he's obnoxious, he's opinionated, but still, no, I don't agree with paying guests to come on those shows of his. And I know that he makes a lot of money, but listen, that's a network, as we all know. We've talked about it before. That's, firing people left and right, getting rid of hardworking anchors and reporters and influential people that we all looked up to and admired and all across their spectrum of all major sports. But no, I don't agree with paying those people to come on the air, especially Aaron Rodgers, please. No.
Yeah, not like the guy's not well off in the first place, but add a little bit more to it.
Exactly.
He was paying him on his last act. Pat McAfee traded FanDuel for ESPN, only probably because he felt the exposure was a great deal more on ESPN. I don't care. The reality is paying millions of dollars. I always thought that being able to retain guests was about relationship building, and now we're talking about this. This, to me,
yeah.
And I'll tell you what right now, and I'll have the final word on it, but I'm going to turn it over to Jacob. I have my feelings about Roy Firestone, who I do mention prominently in my book.
Well, one of the things about Roy Firestone that he was doing, he was getting nice dress shirts and everything because he wanted everybody on there. He wanted everybody on there to look good. That was his main thing. But you know what this does? I'm just saying this about Pat McAfee, what he did. This hurts us in the media, in this new media. Hurts us because we're going to want people. We're going to want the best. We're going to want Tyson Bagent. We're going to want, we're going to want DJ Moore. We're going to want all of them. It's going to take one just to say we want to get paid for it. It's going to hurt us, especially when we don't have the money to do something like that to be able to get these. But really the thing about him doing something like this by himself is he also basically owns his own production company. So he does what he wants. He owns it. It's throughout his own things. He kind of gets it. He's using it. But you want to know what I believe this is? In a certain way, I believe it's his own. He's paying for his own political deal, and I'll tell you why. Aaron Rodgers brings up and makes fun of Travis Kelce and the vax thing all the time. He's against the vax. I get the feeling Pat McAfee can't say it, but he can pay somebody to get on there to do it. I get the feeling that's exactly what that's about. So he's paying somebody whatsoever to talk every week about, their politics, their everything. Pat says that he's probably gone from ESPN, but you can do the brilliant thing and go get somebody you can't kick off. So I get the feeling that's what he's doing, but it hurts us nonetheless.
Let me bring up an interesting point about ESPN, and that's this. Here's an organization many, many years ago, I don't know if you remember this, okay, that brought Rush Limbaugh on, and he didn't even make it to the end of the year because they knew what they were buying, but when it came down to crunch time, they let him go. So now if what you're saying, Jacob, has a lot of teeth to it, which I have a feeling it is, to me, this is a bad act. All right, Mike, go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Pat McAfee is part of the TMZ generation. That's how this is what this smells like. I'm going to pay guys for scoops. So the problem is now, not only like you said, Jacob, okay, is it a political move? He can say things I can't. But what's to stop guys now coming up? Hey, I've got a scoop for you, but I'm not coming on your show unless you pay me X, Y, and Z amount. And like Jacob stated, it also hurts everybody else. It takes one person to say, you know what, set the precedent. I'm not going on your show unless I get something out of it. So it's this, I need it now. I want it now. And on top of it, I've got to say it. I started off a bit of a Pat McAfee fan when he was kind of under the radar. But the shenanigans, the antics, it's getting too much. I mean, the fact that he was in pro wrestling is kind of perfect because to me right now, he's the pro wrestler of media. It's fake. He's not a true media personality. If you look at the ratings and if you look at the ratings right now on the big ESPN college football show, it's actually going down. And if you look at the reason why, a lot of people are saying they can't stand him. And this just supports what they've been saying is that it's fake. The guy's he was real as it gets as a punter, and he went out and did things punters normally don't do by trying to light people up and such. But as far as a broadcaster, as far as somebody who I'd look to actually get sports news from, it's the TMZ generation. He's going to pay for whatever he wants. And I do believe Jacob is correct in the fact that he's got people that, he's going to have people on his show that are going to echo him. He can puppet them into saying what he wants to say without getting in trouble. But I will tell you the amount of times that they've slipped up and dropped an F-bomb live on ESPN or words that they just can't handle or should just not be on live television. I got to imagine ESPN's getting kind of sick of it. And at some point the rubber's going to hit the road and he's going to be back to having to pay for his own stuff out of his own pocket.
Well, here's one real quick thing too. When he keeps using that gimmick of the wife beaters, or as I showed the Kevin Porters. But it's like when you have those type things whatsoever, I'm telling you this straight. You have Stephen A. that looks like the nines. You have Shannon Sharp that looks like the nines. You have Kendrick Perkins looks like the nines. I mean, whether we like their personality or not, they look like the nines. And you get this guy who puts on the wife beater and does all that. It's like they're going to get annoyed with the thing because the other ones are trying their tail off to look the very best and be able to get to this thing. This guy comes, and it's like this guy needs to look a lot better. He doesn't need that gimmick.
Can I say one more thing? It's hacky. That's really what it is. It's coming off as hacky. Like you said, the wife beaters, some of the words he uses, he's trying so hard to be in this woke generation of linguistically wise, like talking to everything he does. He talks in abbreviations all the time. I get what he's trying to do. He wants to get to the younger generation, but the problem is the younger generation is not who ESPN's main demographic is. It's not those people. And I just got to imagine at some point it's going to run its course. And I think the Rodgers thing is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, no question about it. And amazingly enough, I'll turn over to JB in a moment. When I saw this come out yesterday from Roy, because I told you he's a guy that I've learned a lot in terms of one-on-one interviews. I had already decided I'm not watching anything with Pat McAfee anymore because I just think he's fake at that point. I don't want nothing to do with him. And then you also bring up a good point, Big Mike. I'm not even going to watch College Game Day as much as I like Lee Corso. I can't have this guy out there making a jerk out of himself. Ratings will ultimately wipe out that bad. But now, Jacob, you also bring up a point which I like is Stephen A. Smith is obviously in L.A. covering the Chargers and the Dallas Cowboys. But don't you think that Disney's probably telling him, you know, Stephen, you're loud. We get it. You bring a lot of people here, but you need to pipe it down a little bit is what you need to do and bring in more things. So we're paying a lot of money for these other shows. I actually like the addition of Shannon Sharp. I really do. Because he's a guy who's an athlete that's prepared and does his research. And Kendrick Perkins is a laugher. That's all I'll say.
No, here, laugher. Don't get that wrong. I'm just what I was talking about.
Well, I don't like him. Jacob is what I'm telling you. I can't stand
I'm not a fan of Kendrick either. I'm just used him as an example. Everybody that dresses to the nines to look that good. Right. And then all of a sudden you get wife beater boy coming in, and then he wants to put a coat on that looks snazzy. It's like, no. It's like when everybody's trying their hardest, they're going to get mad at him because he's not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Tank tops to me are not the right attire. All right, JB, you've been patiently waiting. What's your take on this?
I mean, there's really not a take. He, I guess, was an NFL player, was a punter. I mean, I don't know. Besides for that, what he does, all he does is talk nonsense. His show is unlistenable for a sports fan.
Right.
You know, I don't get why I'd invest my time in his show. If I want to watch an entertainment show or listen to an entertainment show, I'm all for him. But if I'm listening to sports radio, I want something similar to what we do. You know, I've lived in New York most of my life. WFAN has phenomenal hosts. You know, ESPN Radio started to do it. Michael Kay, who a lot of people don't like, has a phenomenal show with Don LaGreca, who was a longtime guy who did the scores on WFAN, the updates. You know, knowledgeable about sports. Yeah, they yell sometimes and they're opinionated, but they know what they're talking about. It's not just to get to like clickbait. Pat McAfee is the epitome of clickbait. He's horrible. You know, if that's what you want in your sports coverage, by all means, go ahead. You know, anybody that would want to sign him and bring him into their network, that's what you're looking to do. You know, that's why ESPN's got away from people watching them because that's all they're about now. Stephen A., you know, back in the day, he used to know what he was talking about and have valuable opinions. Today, it's how loud can he yell and what stupid things can he say?
Right.
You know, so it's just the whole demographic of what's important in covering sports has changed. And I certainly don't listen to a show. I can't stand it. You know, like Mike said, go back to wrestling. You know, he'd be great there. He'd be a great heel. You know, that Jacob could talk about it on his Monday night show with Denzel.
Yep. Yeah, let me tell you this. You want to know what Pat McAfee reminds me of? You remember the movie Gran Torino? The guy, the kid, he was trying to act like the black kid. And they're like, shut up. You know what I mean? And it's like, they don't want to be your bro, and I don't blame them. Now get out of here. That's what Pat McAfee reminds me of. He's trying to act cool, and they don't think he is.
Yeah, I agree.
And I
Well,
just don't even think
basically-
it's who he is.
Yeah.
I think he's fake. Like, you know, a guy that does that, but is actually himself, Pharrell.
Yeah.
Pharrell is phenomenal. He knows sports, and that's his personality. He's not fake. That's who he is.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the guy that's themselves that's like that because it's different. McAfee just seems like he's a front, you know, he's phony. And I'm not going to invest my time in someone who's phony.
You know what he comes off like? And I just thought of it because you said the exact JB, you nailed it. He is the clickbait king of ESPN right now. That's all he's doing is trying to get clicks by everybody says. Do you know what he is though? And I just thought about it. He is growing up, he is your buddy's dad that tries so hard to be hip. He wants to be in the know, and he's trying to act like he's the cool guy. Hey man, come to me. I'm your buddy. Hey, I'm all about the new generation. I'm all about the hip happening thing. And he's not. In the end, it comes off as fake. It comes off as hacky, and it comes off you looking like a jerk. That's the perfect. You got it, JB, right on the head with that one.
Well, here, let me add a
Yep,
couple things to it. Number one, Michael Kay, to me, is a dynamite announcer. He really is anyways. I've met the guy a couple times. I know what he's all about. We've had some pretty good conversations. But there's a guy, JB, you said you've grown up in New York. You're probably familiar with a guy by the name of Bob Page, right?
Yes.
Bob Page actually is a good friend of mine, as well as George Eichhorn. And Bob Page is a straight shooter, tells you the way it is. And I actually talked to Bob a few weeks ago about wanting to come on, but he's happily retired. I don't blame him. But these are the kinds of guys that are hard-hitting, that have facts and tell it the way it is. Bob Page is great, but you guys are nailing it all over the ballpark here, that there's no question that tank tops, if I ever see a person wear a tank top on this show, I will get rid of them that fast. I will never tolerate that kind of stuff because, you know, and I rarely ever tolerate jerseys unless there's a rare exception to it. I have no problem with doing it. But the reality is you guys are right. Every one of you, okay, that to me, Pat McAfee is, like you say, the clickbait king. They don't need that. But I think the one thing here that comes down to one word that describes this whole scenario, ESPN is desperate, period. They're losing their market because they've let a lot of great people go, veterans that helped bring that network to where it is. And now if you have to resort to this, I don't like any shows that have expletives on them. I don't even care. That to me, you know, I don't read the Bible much, but I can tell you right now, the Bible probably doesn't have them in there. And I'm not trying to be too religious here, but I don't believe in expletives on a show. This is a clean family show where there's enough words in Webster's dictionary that we can use without having to go out there and resort to that type of language.
But you're right on that. And let me say this part. You want to know what they're doing all those dirty language? You know what that is? That's arrogance of thinking that the coasts, both West and East, are the only voting block, if you get my point. That's the arrogance of that. Now, you go when you think about it and you know that you want your watchers and you're out there, you get the Midwest, which I'm from Illinois. You get the Illinois, Missouri, Iowa. You get the South, which I'm in now, Atlanta, Georgia. And you get all those. You get all these areas, the church areas, all that kind of stuff. When you get all of these are other viewers. They don't want to hear that. But when you have the arrogance of thinking the East Coast and West Coast is the only one, then you get that problem.
Yeah, right. I agree. And don't forget, Michigan is in the Midwest too.
Well, and I also think I actually think it's an interesting look because with Disney, I'm kind of surprised, and that just tells you how far that whole media empire has fallen. That Disney would even remotely consider having them on a network tied to their brand, to their organization.
Yeah, but you know what, Mike?
ESPN is. They've just got so far away from what they need to do. Cover sports. It's really all it is. You know, it's the simplest concept. Talk about sports. Mm-hmm. Sports is controversial enough. You don't need to, as the host, the guy who talks about it, be controversial. You could find things in the game. You know, Bob Lee, Outside the Lines. That show is all about controversy. Did anyone say Bob Lee was controversial? No, because all he did was cover things. And that's what ESPN went away from. Right. You know, it's just horrible.
But Pundit covered it. Pundit did it, though.
Yeah, but you know what, Bob Lee, JB, you bring up a great point. I spent time talking to Bob Lee in North Carolina, an event you're going to go to later on next year with me as well, as we continue to build our company's Sideline Sports and South Fork Tribune and take them to levels that they've never been. But the reality of the situation, Bob Lee is everything that's right about journalism. He is. It's a nuts and bolts thing. And you know what? Here's the thing, Mike, that we all have to understand. And I know you're new to our program format, but the reality of the situation is this. The whole objective behind what we do is educate, entertain, and inform. And I think that that's the one thing that a lot of people tend to get away from. And if you have, as I told you earlier in this particular show, that, you know, Disney right now, I can see ESPN declining even more if they continue the trajectory that they're on, that they are. And this isn't a show about hammering ESPN, but there are facts that warrant us to be able to address these subjects. And to me, the title of the show is called Paying for a Guest. Okay, I would never pay for a guest. If somebody don't want to come on, you know, the NFL mentality, JB, next man up. Okay.
That's right.
And that's just how it is.
That's right.
You know, I mean, really, I had a guy actually that Mel Farr Jr. referred to me, wanted me to pay him. And I said, no. Okay.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
And
I don't blame you.
As long as you have LinkedIn, you have all kinds of different ways to get over. You have a credible platform, then we'll be able to do that. So, yeah, I guess Roy Firestone summarized the whole thing, and we'll move on to our next topic. It's ridiculous, period. It really, really is. And, you know, I'll say one thing about ESPN, and I mentioned it show and show out. Okay, with all these researchers they have, I still can't believe they did not know that Chuck Hughes was the only man to ever die on a football field. And we'll leave that for another day. All right. On to Major League Baseball, Kyle Schwarber is the new Mr. October, has 18 home runs in the postseason. And he actually is tied with Reggie Jackson and Mickey Mantle, but he actually ties Jackson for a left-handed hitter. So what do you think of the new Mr. October, George? Kyle Schwarber, this guy can hammer, and JB was a beneficiary of some good things with the Cubs. So
yeah, but look at his batting average. Oh my God. It's feast or famine with this guy, but hey, it's working. It's working. They got him. They got Bryce Harper, and they've got Nick Castellanos. I mean, they got so much firepower in that Phillies lineup. And it's interesting. But you know, here in Detroit, we got not as bad a situation. But Spencer Torkelson was hitting only around 230, 240. But boy, he really came into his own this year. 30 home runs and 90 plus RBIs. But getting back to Schwarber, yeah, I mean, the Phillies. They got quite a ferocious lineup there, and I tell you what, right now I see them sights on that World Series, and again they're only up 2-0, but still, I like him. He's a good ball player. I mean, obviously it's Harper that's the superstar over there. I mean, more so, but you know, hey, you got to hit more than one, and they got a lot of lineup, a lot of power in that lineup. The Phillies, they really do. I like him. I think he's a good guy. But again, I wish he was batting a little bit better than hovering around 200.
Yeah, but do you actually think anyone's going to care about his batting average if they win the
No,
World
of
Series
course
and he's
not.
dropping
No,
those bombs in new baseball? All right, Jacob.
Well, yeah, it's like, and if there's anybody in this era that would be Mr. Baseball or Mr. October, it would be Schwarber, considering that was a 262 career average with 2,597 strikeouts. So so if you're going to have anybody, it's going to be Schwarber. But the thing about it by itself is I'm getting close to saying Bryce Harper's Mr. October just because he does more with the bat. He does more with that. It isn't just home runs and strikeouts. He does more with the bat. He can hit all over the field. So, but the thing about Schwarber, though, is it is the new world. And we think about this. We're the Cubs fans. So you got to realize he hit it on that sign. He hit on the sign. So Schwarber is fun. Here's what it is. Bryce Harper is for the wins. There's a term for golf. You drive for the show, and you drive for the show and putt for the go. It's the same with Schwarber. You drive for with Harper. You drive for the show and you putt for the go. You know what I'm saying? It's like with all the money. You know what I'm saying? With all that, that's what you're getting. It's like you get Schwarber to get the casuals. You get Harper to win.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, when you get those World Series rings and you're popping them out and you're breaking a major historic drought like the Cubbies had, 100 plus years of not winning, he's on that team. your legacy carries a whole lot further when you're whacking them out from the left-handed side.
Well,
And
he
even-
blew
and hold on,
his knee
Jacob.
out.
And to even put him in the same sentence as Reggie Jackson as a Mr. October, we all know what Bryce Harper is. He's a phenomenal player. But I'll tell you, Schwarber wins this. He's got 2 World Series in his pocket, and Bryce Harper would only have 1. But we're talking about Mr. October from the left-handed side of the plate. That's all I'm going to mention. Left-handed side. Don't think that there aren't lineups out there looking for good left-handed hitters that can hit it deep. So.
Yeah, no, the thing about it is Schwarber also blew his knee out and came back for the World Series. So for that type of thing. And I don't think he had a home run for the World Series. But the biggest thing with that one, but boy, he sure is now. And he's really hitting hard. And don't get that wrong. It's just when you get, and when I'm saying when you get a Bryce Harper, that's the winner. Even though he's gonna get his 2 rings and he's a help. But Bryce Harper is the guy you get for the winner. You get the show. The casuals, the everything is Kyle Schwarber. That's the guy you use because he hits big, powerful homers.
Man, they look good, don't they?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
All right, we'll turn over Big Mike.
Well, I think you got it right. And Jacob, just to correct you, it's drive for the show and putt for the
Putt
dough.
for the go.
Putt for the dough, putt for the money.
You're right.
Putting's the money. But you're exactly right with Schwarber too. Hey, let's not forget, and Jacob touched on it. This guy was an injury away from being out of the game, and they didn't think he was coming back for the Cubs that year. He pushed himself. They had doctors saying he shouldn't have come back that year, but he was a spark plug. Yeah, he didn't hit the bombs he did that year, but he was hitting the ball well during the playoffs for the Cubs. This isn't a surprise, but let's not forget, and Jacob touched on it, but truthfully, the whole reason Schwarber's doing what he's doing is because of Harper. Harper is the lightning rod of this whole thing. When you've got Harper around, pitching and staffs are so scared to make mistakes around him that they kind of overlook people. And Schwarber is the recipient of that. Schwarber comes under the radar. His batting average is terrible, but when you don't pay attention and you leave one out over the plate, he's going to eat it up and he's going to make it a show. Like you said, it becomes an absolute show because when he hits one, he's not hitting one that just barely clears the fence. He's hitting one that he's standing at second base by the time it lands. So Schwarber's a great, and I guess for me, Schwarber comes off as your best buddy. He comes off as the guy you knew growing up next door that just kind of stuck around and made a long career out of it. He comes off as that guy. Anytime they do an interview, he's always gracious. So yeah, he's hitting great, and he may come up as one of the best left-handed hitters. But I do think it all revolves around. It goes back to Harper. Harper's the spark plug. Harper gets everybody going, and everybody feeds on it. And this is just another example of that.
He's Paulie from Rocky, who, by the way, just passed away a couple minutes ago.
Who?
Really? No kidding.
Yeah,
Paulie did?
Paulie from Rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, Burt Young. He just passed away.
Oh, well.
That sucks.
Thanks for the unfortunate update. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways.
I wanted to segue.
No, that's okay. There you go. All right, JB.
So let's just compare. I brought up the stats as everyone was talking. Schwarber hitting a whopping 239 with 47 hits, 18 home runs, 31 RBIs, and 36 runs scored in 60 postseason games. So his home runs are useless, not even averaging 2 RBIs per home run. Then you got Reggie Jackson, 278, 78 hits, 18 home runs, 48 RBIs, 41 runs in 77 games. And then Mickey Mantle, the other guy with 18 home runs. 257, 59 hits, 18 homers, 40 RBIs, and 42 runs scored in 65 games. You know what? 18 home runs and 31 RBIs, first of all, is disgusting.
Yeah.
239 batting average is abysmal. Never liked the guy, never understood why they said the Cubs would be better when he came back. He's not a good hitter. He's not Mr. October. If you want to give that title to anyone playing right now, that's still in the postseason, it'd be Bryce Harper for what he did to Atlanta. You know, Schwarber, like Mike said, is the beneficiary of having Bryce Harper there.
Right.
And when you only have 13 additional RBIs on your 18 home runs, they're pretty useless RBIs. You know, you're not doing much to help the team. You know, so there's not really much more to say. He's the problem with what's wrong with Major League Baseball right now. Useless home runs.
Okay, well, then we'll leave it on that. No.
How do you really feel about it, Joe?
Yeah, how do you really feel? Like a
Kind
man
of like I
who's-
feel about Fields fans.
I'll tell you how he really feels. Like a man who's very rested from a great trip with his bride in Dubai. He's had a lot of time to absorb all the sightseeing that he has. So he can come on here and be the JB Ellis that we know as a brother that, but you were technically on Pundit's Pundit, and you're going to be one of your homework assignments, Mr. Ellis, is you're going to go ahead and you're going to have to grade me about my JB Ellis impersonation last Thursday on Pundit. And you can feel free to text me. You know how to get a hold of me. So if you ever go out there and take a long trip, and I'll just see if I can improve on my JB Ellis impersonation. Just so you know.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, you know what? Today, an opportunity to go and visit with Dusty May. If you don't know by now, this man took the Florida Atlantic University Owls to the Final Four, and he was so close to taking them to the Final Two. So let me preface this, and then we're going to play a clip, and then I want each and every one of you guys to go out there and comment on it. I asked him about what it's like to be respected, now that nobody is, you're not sneaking up on anybody. So let's just play this clip, and then we can all talk about it. Well, we know FAU is ranked 10th nationally. What's your thought on that? I know you have a lot of schools out there where they hand out big NIL money, but yet you're ranked 10th there. People know about you. You're not sneaking up on anybody this year.
No, and we felt like once we became ranked in January, we weren't able to sneak up on people last year. It's going to be a different level this upcoming season, but we're proud of the ranking. We want to go higher. That means we're winning. But also it helps with recruiting, it helps with sponsorship, it helps with selling tickets, it helps with everything that our players want to do with life after basketball. So we welcome all of the attention as long as it doesn't detract us from what we need to do on a daily basis. We welcome it all.
All right. Well, first of all, let me tell you right now, and I had an opportunity to talk to Brian White, the athletic director, and then I had a one-on-one with Dusty himself. And I want to just say a couple things about the FAU program. I had asked them, are they going to get a bigger stadium so they can put more people in? And I'm going to have Brian White on a future edition of the Sports Exchange. So I'm glad with some of the things that JB Ellis is working out, that interview will be, when it's set up, will be in its entirety via the Sports Exchange. But what Brian White told me is they don't plan to increase the capacity of that stadium, that if they needed a plan B to bring in a blue blood, they would play with the Panthers Arena, number one. So with that said, hey, this is a athletic program that's come a long way. So George, what's your take on the fact that FAU's men's basketball program is no secret anymore?
I'll tell you what, Scott, I am impressed. I'm impressed with that young man, that coach, and I am impressed with that team and what they were able to do last year. I mean, you look at situations of upstarts, it happens all the time. We've seen it all the time, but this was an incredible story. And the thing is he has to preach, and that's consistency. You don't want to just go there one time. Oh, yeah, we tasted it, man. No, you got to be hungry for it year after year and into the next season, obviously. So, yeah, you want to preach consistency, and you don't want those kids to get too big of a head. I mean, obviously, and it's tough. It's a lot of mind games, as we know, with college athletes. But no, I think they have a bright future. And I think that, if they wanted to schedule a couple of games in a big city, that's cool. I mean, we had a team here in Detroit that Dick Vitale once coached called the Detroit Titans, the U of D, University of Detroit. And what they did is they played some of their games at Cobo Arena downtown, which some of you may recall, the former home of the Detroit Pistons. Well, anyways, it was a good thing. They got the team off campus, but they only took the fans back downtown, and it got more exposure for Vitale and the Titans. And maybe FAU would want to consider something like that. But it's to get a new stadium and to get a new arena. I mean, that's a whole long range plan, obviously. And I hope that the program would need that at some time. Obviously, it can't happen right now. But no, I think that was good. I'm glad you talked to him at Media Day today, Scott.
Yeah, let me tell you, they have no plans whatsoever to change the basketball facility at all. They're not even looking to expand it. They know they have a backup plan if they need it, where the Panthers play in Sunrise. They don't have to do that. In fact, the only of all the major sports there, to me, the only place that needs a new stadium happens to be the baseball stadium, and that'll be one of the topics, JB, that I'll bring on the Sports Exchange when I have an opportunity to talk to him. And as far as baseball, if they have a backup plan, it's a very good one. The spring training home of the Washington Nationals and the Astros are ballpark of the Palm Beaches. So those are suitable options. But, Brian White was telling me that, you know what? Duke is in a much better situation than North Carolina because they built an NBA-style arena. They only fill it out once. I don't want to give it all away when we're talking about Brian later. But the reality is here's a guy here, Dusty May, who took a job and then he reconsidered it. Now look what he's done.
Yeah.
So, now this whole interview is in its entirety on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed, it is on there now. Please do so. All right. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts about Dusty May, knowing that they're definitely not a basketball school? Now people are going to pay attention to them because I know they're going to be on national television a lot more.
Hey, Big Mike, I have one question for you. Did you remember Entourage?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Didn't that look like he got divorced from Sloan, who left Hollywood? He became a basketball coach.
Yes, absolutely.
No, but the thing is, you talk about blue bloods, Scott. You talk about blue bloods, correct?
Right.
It isn't. This isn't that era anymore. This really isn't. That ended in 2015, truthfully, with Butler. Butler and basically going 2 in a row. It doesn't. A Final Four from an FAU used to be, oh my dear God, used to get amazing with Cleveland State beating Indiana back in the 80s, 86. Used to have, oh my God, great. And then we had, you got to remember, then we no longer have the 16-1 deal where 16 never won. Now you have 2 of them, I believe. I think we've had 2 of them now. And it's like, and you had that UMBC beating Virginia for the first one. There's no blue blood anymore. It's like, this isn't the era of this is the basketball school, this is the anything. This isn't that era anymore. I'm from Quincy, Illinois. We were the basketball school, and the football school won 1 game a year, maybe. Now they are probably number 7 in the state, and they score 51 points a game. And while their basketball team is awesome and winning 28 games. So there's no such thing. Everybody's playing their money. Everybody's putting their money out there now for everything. So Dusty May, they're not sneaking up on anybody, but they don't have to. No one sneaks up on anyone anymore. No one is a blue blood. Kentucky's had a couple of bad years in there. It's like you're getting NAIA schools beating these big-time, quote-unquote, blue bloods on the road. They're beating them in their own home stadium. That happened a couple years ago with Syracuse. We've got to get an understanding that this is such a different sports world now, and these athletes are everywhere. They're not – you used to have it where, you had some decent athletes, NAIA, blah, blah, blah. Then there was levels. There's not just levels anymore. Everybody's got the highest level.
Well, let me tell you this about Florida Atlantic, okay? Number one, they don't mind investing into good coaches. The 3 they have there now, John McCormack, to me, is the best-kept secret on the planet when it comes to baseball. And prior to that, you had Kevin Cooney. Tom Herman's great. He just really is. I mean, in fact, he's in my book, for crying out loud. I've only known this guy a few months. He's that good. And Dusty May, what can you say? I mean, good one-liner, by the way. Dusty May, what can you say? But, here's a guy to me that, he knows what he's talking about. But bear in mind, he came from the University of Florida before he took on this job. So, he knows what it's like to, I think Gator fans are probably wondering, why is he not the coach instead of who we have now? I won't get into that. But, boy, you talk about a find at FAU. Dusty May is that. All right, Big Mike.
Well, let's be honest. The college landscape, not just basketball. What changed the college landscape other than the NIL? It's the transfer portal. You never saw guys from blue blood schools, as you call it, transferring out. You've got 2 guys that were starting on North Carolina last year that are not going to come back to Carolina this year and that entered the transfer portal. The transfer portal has changed college basketball a lot more than a lot of people think. These guys that were sitting on the bench were number 1 kids through high school, number 1 kids at the McDonald's All-American game, but can't crack the starting 8 or the top 8 this school. They go to another program and takes that program from being a mid-level program to a high-level program themselves.
Right.
And what FAU is striving for, let's be honest, the gold standard right now in college basketball aren't the blue bloods. It's one team for consistency. Can anybody guess who that one team for the last 20 years consistently is? It's Gonzaga. Gonzaga is the exact blueprint what everybody wants. Gonzaga is there every year. They're consistent every year. Yeah, they haven't won one. They haven't been able to get over that hump. But I'll tell you what, a fan base, a college basketball fanatic like myself, I'll take somebody who's in the big dance every year, getting to the Elite Eight, the Final Four, and having a chance at it. And Gonzaga's been able to do that. And I think that's the blueprint that May's looking for. May's smart enough. You know what? I'll tell you, I love the fact that they're not going to add more seats. You know why? I want that building like Cameron. I want that building small. I want that building packed wall to wall with my fans. I don't want a bunch of people being able to buy tickets from out of state, out of city to come in and infiltrate. I want people to walk into my building and feel it rumbling from my fans. So I applaud him for that. Now, will the program get big enough that they have to do something, maybe get a big deal and go play in a neutral site once, twice a year against some bigger teams? Great. But until that happens, build the program, be consistent, get to that level that everybody knows you're coming every year. Yeah, they had their coming out party last year. Hey, great. You're in the top 10. You're coming in 10th. The expectations are there, but they're not, you're not in the top 4, top 5 right now, which sets yourself up for a drop. I think it's amazing. I think what they're building is great. And I think the college landscape in general, and like Jacob said, the Blue Bloods, they don't exist anymore. They're names. I'll be honest, I'm a big Carolina honk myself. I love UNC, but Carolina's not what they once were. They didn't make it last year, and then they turned down an invite to NIT. Like, who do you think you are? You're not good enough that you turned down an invitation to a national tournament. I mean, I can't even imagine 20 years ago if you'd heard a school like Michigan or UNLV not only not making the tournament, but then turning down a bid to the NIT on top of it. It was a disgrace. So the college basketball landscape, just like the rest of college sports, has changed. And it's great. As a fan, you got to love this era of college sports because the parity's coming. With the transfer portal, the NIL is going to shift around. And yeah, you're going to have some schools that are going to have an advantage because they have more money. That's boosters more than anything else. But in a general sense, top to bottom, college sports is going to be better because of the transfer portal for the next 20, 30 years.
Hey, Big Mike, let me ask you a quick question before I turn it over to JB. You're located in Sacramento, is that right?
Yes.
I could have sworn you were in Boca Raton with me because I got news for you. Brian White and Dusty May were saying the same things that you just echoed there. And by the way, a little footnote on Gonzaga. I read today that there's a chance that they can end up in the Big 12 playing basketball as well. So we're not going to get into that, but that just bolsters what you're saying and makes it even more valid. Okay, JB, you got last word. I know we have to get you out of here in a few minutes, so go ahead. The floor is yours, JB.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive when you see these smaller schools that aren't in the big conferences put together a team that goes on a run the first year. But when they do it a second time, that's when you start to say that they have the right people in place, that it wasn't a fluke, that they know how to recruit the guys and build the team and a system and put everything together. Now, I mean, what's been done at Gonzaga, that's special in itself. Yeah, they haven't won a championship, but I'm a St. John's fan. If we can do that, first of all, the fact that Gonzaga could do that, a small Catholic university. Meanwhile, St. John's, who plays home games at Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball in the biggest city of the world, can't put together, consistently going to the NCAA tournament, let alone the Sweet 16, the Big 8, the Final Four. But you have a team out in the middle of nowhere at a smaller university that's done this for how long? That's impressive. So, I mean, what's being done right now is phenomenal with Dustin May. Now, to continue it, that's the hard part. It's not an easy process because recruiting with NIL and everything else and the transfer portal, it's insane, the work that's put into it by the college coaches and ADs and, trying to get all these pieces together. It's impressive when you have a smaller school that can do this. The key is finding the right guys as freshmen and sophomores that aren't on the radar. And so you can keep them, and hopefully they don't transfer out. And if they do, you find a couple other more freshmen and sophomores that you can keep. Because you're not going to get the transfers because they're going to go to the schools that can get the NIL or where they're going to get more playing time. I mean, for example, again, using St. John's, Rick Pitino went to Iona because I guess he needed someplace to coach. He didn't want to just relax. And then he came to St. John's. He took all his best players from Iona. And Iona, what are they going to do now? They had to go out and recruit it and build a whole new process. So it's just the way that the system is set up. with parity right now, if you could get the right young guys and recruit properly, you could be good, but it just takes a lot of work, and there's a lot of cohesion that has to go into it. And you have to understand, if you get a guy that's a top player and you're at one of these smaller schools, they're probably not going to be there 4 years. The best players at the best schools aren't staying 4 years. It's just they're going to the pros, and at the lower level, the lower schools, they're going to go to a bigger school where they can get an AL money and, be seen more on ESPN or wherever, the games are, CBS.
You want to know if I was to do let's see, NCAA Division I coaching, you don't know where I'd want to go? Campbell.
Where?
Campbell University. I want to do that. The gym's about that small. It's one of the smallest Division I schools, but at least I know darn good and well my thought process of when they're going to the portal is based off of they're just trying to go to the bigger school and not trying to get the NIL money. At least I'm going to have a chance to coach instead of trying to just recruit and try to get the next guy. Other than that, I would just want to go to a junior college or something, or just any of that stuff where I have a chance of coaching and teaching these kids. And that's what I'd want. It'd be so hard now. You're not getting anywhere now when basically they are the boss.
All right, let me add this, and I know Mike has something he wants to say. Give me a second, all right, Mike? Coaching, continuity, and cohesion are the 3 C's in this case, okay? We know that Dusty May's a good coach. Continuity, being able to keep a lot of these guys buying into the fact they can play 2 or 3 years and not worry about losing their scholarship, and then cohesion. Those are the key things. And I've spoken to him a couple of times. I'm getting the vibe from him. That's what he's looking to do. So good point, JB. I just want to add those other 2 words. All right, Mike, you have last word on this. I want to get JB over to his next show, but I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to identify themselves, but say what they want to say on this final topic. Go ahead, Mike.
And just to add something, JB's exactly correct. If they are building the program, this is the big year for them, because it does what JB said. If they are consistent, if they do make the tournament and they at least win a round or 2 in the tournament, that legitimizes what they did this year. You're right. If they don't and they have a massive dip, yeah, that's gonna hurt them. But if they can show, hey, we are building this program, we're going to be a consistent winner, then that's exactly it, JB. The portal will open up bigger for them. They will get some of these guys that, hey, you know what? I'm going to go there. I'm going to make my name on a team where I know I'm going to get some extra playing time. So yeah, year 2, this for Mr. May, and the follow-up year to what they did last year. This year is going to be fun to watch, and I really hope they can continue the success and we get to see FAU on the map for a long time to come.
Yeah, the one thing they won't have to worry about in this year's tournament, should they get there, is eliminating first. Number one, they got their first win, and then they got to their first Final Four. So now at this point, they're just padding what they're already doing. I'll be getting to some games this year at some point during the season. I don't know when, depending on our schedule here. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing there. And again, I've had an opportunity to get to know Dusty May since the Final Four and then picking up on it today. And I'm amazed at some of the things I'm seeing, but I'm going to see it on the basketball court. And then in future opportunities, I'll be able to speak to them more and more. We'll insert more and more clips as we have along. So great show tonight, JB. We're glad you're back. We really are. Mike's obviously our new addition, and George and Jacob are the holdovers. So with that said, let me go around the horn and let everybody know how they can get a hold of it. All right, George, go ahead. Start.
All right. I got a book out there, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, including all of the great announcers from Detroit and Michigan we've had over the years: Bob Ufer, Ernie Harwell, Van Patrick, Bud Lynch, Bruce Martin. They're all in here. There's a link to purchase my book. It's at the end of my column. I write for Scott and Candy at the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune banner. And you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. or on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SandGSports99, or on LinkedIn under my name, George Icorn. You can hear me, too, also on Pundit's Pundit and the Sports Exchange, and great programs like Inside the Pigskin and 108 Stitches. So looking forward to talking to more of you out there, and a great show tonight, guys.
Okay, Jacob, go ahead.
I'm Jake the Pundit on Twitter, or I'm not going to call it X because it sounds stupid. I'm on yep, exactly. I'm Jacob Christner on Facebook. I'm Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok. I'm Jake the Pundit on Instagram, all those type of deals. I am, also on Ricochet and Substack and all those type of things. Sundays, I am with Scott on The Professor and the Pupil. I am with that on Sundays, Sunday mornings. Mondays is Top Rope Talk with the Sniper and the Pundit for Pro Wrestling Talk. We have Tuesdays. I am off of Sideline and the thing with an independent show called the Yin and Yang every couple of weeks with a girl named TJ Sampson. It's a pretty cool show. Arts, movies, politics, film, everything. We talk different things. And then Wednesday nights, this Confidential in this show. Thursday nights, Pundit's Pundit. When they need me, I'm off the bench for a gauntlet. And I got a couple movies with a couple little lines that I did also. So I stay on the move.
Okay, Big Mike, go ahead.
Well, you can find me on X, formerly Twitter. I know it's cheesy as all can be, but at Kal-El99 on X. I am going to throw in one thing just because it still rubbed me the wrong way, Jacob. Hey, I'm a Bears fan. Get the coaching in line, and I don't care if it's Fields or whoever's in the backfield. Let them do what they were hired to do. If it's a running quarterback, let them run. If it's a guy in the pocket, let him in the pocket. Until we figure out what we're doing on the sidelines and upstairs, I don't care who's on the field. We're not going to get W's.
Mike, I love you. Mike, I love you for saying it. I just want you to understand there's not everybody that thinks like you. And so I'm going to love you for what you're saying because I want to win too. I've been a fan since '84.
Well, hey, I've been a fan since '85 because that's the first year I watched real football, and I can tell you what I saw, and I will tell you why I'm a Bears fan that resides in Northern California. My first game ever was seeing the Bears versus the Niners, and Peyton made the Niners look like a bunch of schoolyard kids, and I fell in love with Peyton as he ran all over him. But you guys can catch me on Facebook, you can catch me on Twitter. I'm going to be on 108 Stitches going forward with Scott and the boys and George, and I'll be here as much as I can be. It's a pleasure, and thank you guys for having me in.
All right, JB, go ahead.
I like this guy.
I told you.
So
I
JB underscore the program. JB underscore the program on Twitter. I don't use that X thing. It's still Twitter to me.
Right.
You know, I'm old school with that. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30 on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Wednesday mornings, we're on WGDJY 99.1 in Atlanta with Sideline Sports. And then Sunday mornings, Sunday afternoon, 12 to 1 before kickoff, the Sideline Sports NFL pregame show. Also on NFL Alumni Media and DBTV. There's an announcement coming soon with the TV thing. Stay tuned because you'll want to know about that. Pretty exciting, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
All right, well, also check out SidelineSports.net, the website that's being created that we're working on as well. For the final time, the Sports Exchange is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room, one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You know what, JB, I'm with you. Twitter at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes producing tonight. My book, a media book, is called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. So great show tonight. I know we're going to call it a night. So we look forward to next Wednesday's edition of the Sports Exchange. So on behalf of George Eichhorn, Jacob Christner, Big Mike, JB Ellis, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great weekend. We will see you next Wednesday night on the same station, same place, same crew. Good night, everybody.
Good night.